Welcome to the Minx and Muse podcast. I'm your host, Crimson Minx, creatrix of Minx and Muse, a dark feminine playhouse where we awaken our innate magic through esoerotic dance and witchcraft. Welcome to the portal of enchantment. Welcome, Tara Valkyrie, to the Minx and Muse podcast and to our new format for the Astro update, which is now going to be a monthly report. Yay! So, Tara, what's the energy? What's the Astro cosmic energy looking like in June?
Okay, so overall energy, this is really about, what I love about Gemini and Cancer, because those are the two signs that are in, the two seasons that are in the month of June.
Right now, the sun's in Gemini.
It's in Gemini. Yeah. On the 20th, which is the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. Ooh, that's when Cancer season starts. So it's first about prioritizing our emotional well-being, our community connections, and that can be like local community, go to the farmer's market, you guys. Or it can be online community. It can be like what we're doing right now. And then it goes into first this, nurturing of our community. Often, community is what we create. And that is also a big theme, is finding your people, creating your community. And this includes going back to our foundations, which is a lot of Cancer season, Cancer energy. And this can be chosen family. This can be family of origin. But really, it's about our connection to the other people around us and how that can feed us or that can let us know what we need to change.
Got it. So this is all very Gemini season moving into Cancer season energy.
Yes.
This is awesome. Now, what other planetary influences do we have to look forward to?
I'm so glad you asked. So there, I'm looking at my notes just because there's a lot that goes on in June. We start out, Venus comes home to Taurus on the 5th. And Venus, we had just had this amazing month of the Venusian energy because we were in Taurus season when May started. And we have Venus entering Taurus, which is just coming home to our sensuality, really enjoying being present, finding the small pleasures in the mundane. We also have Mercury entering Cancer on the 8th. So this is also where, going back to the community vibes, this is where we're really feeling the emotion in messages. And this is powerful because we always talk about self-sovereignty in the studio. And one thing, any planet that's in Cancer, Cancer is a water sign. It is reading between the lines. We may see in June that we're really picking up on a lot of those hidden messages, unspoken messages. And this can be really good for both, when we're connecting, but then also paying attention to what are we feeding ourselves communication-wise? Where are we focusing?
Is this because Mercury has to do with communication?
Correct.
It's that kind of planet of downloads, eureka moments, thought processes, speaking our truths. And because it's in Cancer, it probably has more of an intuitive influence because Cancerian energy is very intuitive and also nurturing. So I see what you say, how it is like, how are we caring for ourselves through our Mercurian energy?
Yeah, absolutely. And what messages are we getting from our interactions? Because Mercury is communication. So it's our communication with ourselves, our thought processes. It's also how do we communicate with other people? And then how do we receive messaging? And so that can, and especially with it being in Cancer, noticing, what we're picking out of messages. And is it nurturing us, or is something that we need to be aware of, especially at the collective level. And then we also have Mars entering Virgo. So, and Mars is the action planet. It is act first, think later. So it's interesting when it gets into Virgo, because Virgo is very analytical. Virgo is often more, when we think Virgo energy, it's more like mind oriented, like detail oriented. If you have a lot of Virgo, you have a lot of detail oriented energy in your chart. So Mars and Virgo, it can be a gift in that we're more likely to kind of think through a plan. And it's powerful. So we have Mercury in Cancer, so we're getting these intuitive hits. But then Mars in Virgo comes in on the 17th of June, so mid-month. And we get this intuitive hit. And then Mars in Virgo is like, cool, I know how to get us there. Like, here's an action plan. Now, the challenge is we can fall into analysis paralysis. So it's important to have embodiment during this time. And that can just be like moments of stillness.
Hello, Venus in Taurus. Exactly. Taurus is one of the most sensual astrological signs. Yes. Venus is all about connecting with our sensuality. So it's like, hey, prioritize that Venusian energy that wants you to feel, that wants you to connect with your sensuality and your senses. Don't get too wrapped in the sauce of the Virgo in Mars, which is going to be like, I want to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I got to plan this, and I forgot to eat, and I'm numb, and there's no time to take a break, and then we get exhausted, and then we're burnt out, and then
But the magic with Venus being in Taurus at the same time as Mars being in Virgo, so all of the same elements, meaning all of the earth signs. So, for example, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. They all trine each other. And a trine is it's a harmonious aspect that it means the energy flows together. So one upside of Venus in Taurus and Mars in Virgo, it's like having the hot, smart handyman in your house. And then Venus in Taurus, they're working, they're doing their thing. And then Venus in Taurus is like, hey, babe, did you eat? Come on, let's eat. I fixed this amazing charcuterie board. So it's this nice blend of we're getting shit done, but we're also, if we're staying embodied, we're also taking time to enjoy where we are, enjoy the path along the way. And I'm saying this as much for myself as for other people, because I know that I get into I just have to get there.
My Mars is in Virgo, so this resonates.
Right. Oh, yeah. So how do you, do you find that, because it's usually around this time each year, do you find that this time of year, are you more focused or,
Yes. Summer is the time where I just want to take off and I'm lit up. It's also because I'm a sun in Cancer, first decade, so end of June. And so, you have the solar return as well. So it's working together.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the other thing too, with the sun. So, Mars enters Virgo the last few days of Gemini season. And then the sun comes into Cancer, and we're already feeling it by the 17th. And this time of year is so powerful because if we allow ourselves to really align with the energy and be present with it, we get so much deep insight right now about whether it's something we're already cultivating or whether we're still in that crossroads phase, which I know a lot of people either are like, I've got this goal and this is where I want to go, I just don't know how to get there. Or they're like, I'm at a crossroad and everything looks great right now.
Yeah, let's hear collectively, because first of all, as a reminder, as is above, so is below, as these planetary influences that Tara is talking us through are happening in the sky, we all have access to evoke this energy within us. We all have Venus somewhere specifically in our chart. We all have Mercury, Mars. So all of these are being, as is above, so is below, activated within us. So everything that Tara is saying is happening in the sky is something that's going to be reflected within us. And that being said, in terms of the collective, are we shifting perhaps from one state to another with all of these sign changes?
Yes. So with this shift, like for example, right now, in the news, there is a lot of information coming to light about how our data is used. Now, this isn't new. This has been going on, especially since Pluto entered Aquarius. And Aquarius that's an air sign like Gemini, and so that is going to deal with the exchange of information. And once, it kind of came up in Aquarius season, which was earlier this year. And then throughout Gemini season, which, began, May 20th this year, we've had a lot of news articles. There's been a lot of podcasts that have talked about cybersecurity, about data breaches, about the way we are receiving information and the sources that we're getting it from. Do they have our best interest? Do they not? What is being hidden from us? So then when we shift into Cancer, one thing we notice is we always kind of come off Gemini season and we're a little overwhelmed because Gemini is air, and air as an energy. Yeah, we're up here. On the upside, we're curious, we're interacting with each other, we want to get out, we want to do things. Depending on where Gemini is in your chart, if it's at one of the 4 major angles, so down at the very bottom at the 4th house, the midheaven, the ascendant or the descendant, this may be an extra kind of chaotic time. A lot of things going on. Whenever we go into Cancer season, collectively, one thing that I always think of is the 4th of July. And I know that's another, national holiday that people have feelings about, but regardless, but it's always very Cancerian. Either we go back to our hometown, we're visiting people, or we're like, I'm just going to bug out. I'm going to go somewhere and just be with myself or be with my chosen family, whatever it might be. And collectively, especially right now, with all this information coming out about cybersecurity, about the powers that be using or potentially using our information for less than noble purposes.
Stop it. What?
I know. This is the first time
you mean these technology companies don't have our best interest in mind? This is blowing my mind.
We're seeing this shift when we get into Cancer season of pulling back a little bit and kind of reassessing where our energy is going. And as you said, as above, so below, there's also always a higher vibe and a lower vibe to this energy. And the higher vibe is we're kind of, pulling closer in with our people. This is also tapping into that Cancerian discernment, that intuition. If we sit with what's going on, and I know I've said this before in my weekly astro updates, a lot of what's going on, if we sit with it, whether it's personal or collective, it's nothing new. Whether we look at it within the pattern of our own country, or if we look at it as a global pattern, part of what we're navigating, we're this young little country, we're baby's first Pluto return. And so collectively we're navigating a lot of like, well, what does what are we founded on, and what does that even mean? And with the outer planetary changes that are going to be going on later this year, what have occurred earlier this year, we're asking ourselves a lot of the deeper questions about, who are we and what does this mean? And we already go through that in Cancer season, but especially this year, we're going to be having more of this kind of analysis of our identity as a collective.
Is that why we're acting out right now?
Yeah, that's why we're being,
Because we're like, would that make sense with the Pluto return, trying to cling to old identities that are dying and the conflict of those who are ready to claim a new identity? Would that make sense? Okay. Because we're having our Pluto return, which happens what? I mean, it's our first one. 250 years. Yeah. And so we know that happened during the French Revolution, where there was old ideology challenged by, new ideology. And
then what's fascinating is if you go back before that, because we had the French Revolution, which was inspired by the American Revolution. If you go back even further, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was when King Henry VIII of England broke away from the Roman Catholic Church, which now we think about that because we have like 8,000 different, denominations of Christianity. But at that time, it was like, you did not do that, but you did. I mean, it was a huge deal. It was a huge, huge deal. And then also the American and French revolutions. You did not just tell a king or tell the aristocracy, yeah, you're being mean and we don't like it anymore and we're going to form our own country. And so we're on the cusp of that energy again. And we're on this cusp of this old way is not working. And there is this huge swath of us, I would like to believe that we are the majority, that is like, yeah, let's step into the new paradigm. This is new, this is weird, this is scary. Let's just call it. And we know that we have the tools of self-sovereignty and courage, and we're going to step into this. There's also, and I think there always has been, this group of people that wants to cling to the old status quo, whether it's because it benefits them and it keeps them above other people, or because they just don't know any different.
Yeah, and I think there's a fear of change as well. It's better the devil you know than the devil you don't kind of situation. There feels more certainty around things staying in the status quo versus potentially spiraling to like, well, if it's not this, then what is it? Is it just mass chaos, right?
Right. Exactly. And, I've said this before on previous things, that our human mind is, the survival brain, the survival pattern is to go with what we know. The beauty in Gemini season, which is mutable air, mutable is always about transformations and transitions. And then it always a mutable sign, we have a mutable season, then we go into a cardinal season. And cardinal season is always about initiation of something new.
And Cancer season is cardinal season.
Yeah, cardinal water. Ooh, yeah. And it's especially potent because it's cardinal water. So it's this initiation, but because it's water, it inherently is pulling in patterns of the past for us to examine and asking us to create this new legacy. So that's the other thing too. Whenever people want to dog water signs and be like, y'all are sensitive. It's like, we're sensitive because we can handle a lot and we're working with a lot of energy.
You got a Pisces and a Cancer on this call right now. Tara's a Pisces for those who don't know. She's all of the strength of water is definitely within you, and it's very spiritual, so it has that deeper purpose within it.
Yes. And water, and I'm going to preface this, all of the signs, it does not matter the element or the modality, all the signs have intuition. All of us have intuition, have psychic ability. With water, though, part of what this season, why it can be so volatile is, and I'm not surprised at all that the birth of our nation as it is now occurred over Cancer season. Because what often happens too with this energy and where we are now, again, 250 years later, is recognizing that the old way of doing something that used to be protective, that used to be safe in a sustaining way, is one, no longer safe, and is no longer protecting anyone but a very small number of people. And it takes that powerful energy of water. I mean, if you think about it, our planet is 70% water. We are 70% water. It is literally the life force that we came from. And with this is a time where what we're going to see when we look back, I mean, right now we're kind of in day to day. When we look back on 2025, we're going to see a lot of what grows it began at this time.
So you can always think that during Cancer season, this is when revolutionary change can start to take hold.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, especially with Cancer. I mean, because
people wouldn't attribute that to Cancer. People would say Aries or
even Capricorn, even the counterpart. Capricorn. Yeah, like if you look at any chart,
they were planning it during Capricorn.
There's Capricorn, yeah, and they're on the same energetic spectrum. And due to a lot of things in our society, we tend to look at Capricorn and we think like, oh yeah, we're going to make that change. But the Capricorn change cannot happen without Cancer precipitating it, because Cancer comes first on the zodiac wheel. And in the changing of the seasons, it has to initiate that change. And it begins in very subtle ways that we don't notice at first. But when we look back, we're like, oh, this couldn't have happened without this beginning here.
And what I'll say is, for those who aren't aware of when Capricorn season is, it's the end of December and most of January, which if you think back to 2025, there was quite a few things that did initiate at that time. And so now you can start seeing astrologically how cycles take place, because they're opposing signs. What was initiated potentially is now, I like that, precipitating in Cancer, because they're connected. So
Yes, they're absolutely connected. And we also, too, at this time of year, because Cancer and Capricorn deal with legacy, they deal with lineage. And what I mean by that is just the shared energetic lineage of a people. And that can be anything from, yes, our families, but it also ripples out. I mean, it can be global. But for us, I mean, we're living in the United States, and for us, this really brings back a lot of the foundational aspects of who we are and who we would like to be. And especially this summer, it's because also Saturn just moved into Aries on May 24th. And for the next
month, a big one, huh?
That was a big one. That was one of the big outer planet, shifts. Earlier in March, we had Neptune in Aries. So we also, that's the other thing too, is this Cancer season, we've got cardinal water, and then we've got cardinal fire. That's Aries, with Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries. This is big shifting movement of, we're initiating new patterns. And it gets really, really potent, because the focus too with cardinal energy is self-sovereignty. Be the owner of your destiny. Own whatever it is you're going to do. And, collectively, we're also in this journey of owning our power. And we're also seeing this conflict of where we have some people that are stepping into their power. A lot of them are just trying to live their lives. And then we've got a smaller group that's making a lot of noise, and they're threatened. And I find it so fascinating. They are threatened by people just being in their own power. It's not like these groups are like, now I'm going to make all of you live life the way I want to. It's just, I just want to live my life.
It's almost just, because I think a lot of people have a reaction to the word power because people associate power with abuse or oppression.
Yes.
And when people can actually reclaim their personal power of simple identity, simply living in your power means living as your true authentic self unapologetically. But that triggers people because a lot of I think there is subconsciously in a lot of people felt like they were very clearly the ones on top and were representational of what the ideal person is and should be, and they attach it to some kind of morality, or I think that's I think it's attached to morality, but it's an ego attachment. And seeing diversity really threatens what was a very single monolith of control for so long.
Yes. And I love that you bring up morality because the Sagittarius full moon, which is on June 11th, Sagittarius, that's mutable fire. That is ruled by Jupiter. And what Jupiter represents to the collective is our belief systems. And here's where it's going to get wacky. Because Jupiter is within the bounds of Saturn, meaning it is closer to the sun than Saturn is, it often deals with our belief systems within what is the collective societal tradition. Which is the collective societal tradition is Saturn stuff. So the Sagittarius full moon on the 11th, that is actually going to highlight a lot of, have we been using our moral compasses in society for good? Or have we been using them to suppress and control and spread fear? And what is being illuminated from that further? And I know that, again, these things are not new, but we're going to be seeing more layers of the repercussions of not addressing this head on. And so that's, I always find it fascinating. And like I said, this past month, we had a lot of news articles about cybersecurity, about information exchange. In June, that's when we often see a lot of commentary on how our belief systems, especially when we claim that they are separate from our systems of justice and law, but we start to see really how they influence each other.
You mean there's not a separation of church and state?
I mean,
I thought that was our constitutional right. So perhaps we're going to start seeing people challenging these things. I know there is a case somewhere along the judicial system right now about funding. I think it's a charter school that is a Catholic school, and can they get federal funding? And so it seems like a very apt time to perhaps to have that be in play. So right along time with the astrology.
I know. We also are seeing, and we're going to see more of this summer. So there are a lot of states that, for example, going back to when Roe v. Wade was overturned, we have a lot of states that went ahead and they passed their own laws protecting abortion. And over the past 2 months, we've seen the legislature in some of those states try to block that and come up with other bills that sound good. They sound like they're like, oh, no, we're not going to mess with that, but we just want to add this caveat. But then it's filled with all this other stuff that is meant to overwhelm, that is meant to, kind of take away from the real issue and then take away those rights ultimately. Mm-hmm. And so the other thing that's going to come to the forefront, I think, because the other aspect of Cancer is it is the It's an alignment energy, also known as a feminine energy. And a big thing that happens during Cancer season is we are confronted with a lot of the shadows and unresolved wounding around the way that energy has been treated among people, among femme presenting people. And then that also goes into like how that affects families, because other things that are coming to light, there are bills that are going to be presented in June that have to do with how we define family, with the funding that families get. And Cancer is big. Cancer and Capricorn both are big on families. In really traditional astrology, we think of Cancer as the mother archetype, whereas Capricorn is the father archetype. So yeah, lots going on with that. I'm just checking my notes.
I was going to say, a wild month. I know, check it, but as a reminder, there's always astrology, just like your natal chart doesn't exist in a vacuum where it's like your sun is this, so you're this. This is a prime example of how all of these things happening at one time is an amalgamation of all the energies, and you can't necessarily just look at things independently. Right. Well, Venus is in Taurus, so it's going to be a wonderfully sensuous, month. But then we have, all the other different influences. And as a reminder, the outer planets, we just had Pluto enter Aquarius, but we're having, is Saturn an outer planet, or is it?
So some astrologers say yes, it is. And then some say no. When I say outer planet, I just mean not a personal planet.
Not a personal planet.
Personal planets are Mercury, Venus, Mars, because those are aspects of energies that we really feel in our everyday, both how we're wielding them personally, and then if there's a Mars retrograde or if there's an interaction. When we get into, I think of if I had to label Saturn, I would label Saturn and Jupiter as society planets. We absolutely have our own natal Jupiter and Saturn placements, but I think of them as society planets because those are the planets that when we are out in society or interacting, those are the energies we really notice.
So this Saturn going, it's switching into Aries is going to be something that we notice on a collective level.
Yes.
This Pluto having just changed, obviously it's going to be in Pluto in Aquarius for over 20 years. So that's like these, I guess, non-personal planets really are going to be creating a new energy signature, imprint, effect. And so it's interesting to just see how they all play together, and that being aware of it. Okay, I noticed that I am feeling this kind of way. It's not because the planets are making me, it's because it's the energetic imprint right now. But as a Saturn, mystic, a mystically minded person, this is to your benefit to know that it's happening.
Yeah, it's just like in Austin a couple of days ago, we had these storms that were coming through. I mean, it's cosmic weather. We had these storms coming through, and my phone let me know, like, hey, severe thunderstorm warning. If I wanted to, I totally could have sat outside in it. It would have, I have free will. The thunderstorm may not have been so great for, working on my tan, but it was great for watering my trees.
Yeah.
So
see the big picture sometimes when I think a lot of people get scared when they hear some of these things, and I don't want anyone to listen to this and be like, oh my God, the revolution is happening. We're all going to die. It's like, friends, evolution it is necessary, you know? So perhaps instead of revolution, maybe you need to hear evolution. We're evolving, and it's not something that you necessarily have to be fearful of. And especially if you find that there's certain things that are not working in your favor, maybe you can celebrate it and be the new solution moving forward.
Yes. And I love that. I love the be the new solution. And that's really what this energy is about. The Saturn and Neptune going into Aries, Pluto in Aquarius. Aries energy, I mean, all the cardinal energies are like this, but Aries especially is get your own life, be your own authority. Obviously doesn't mean go be an asshole to somebody else because they're not, it's, take control of yourself, recognizing you are responsible for yourself, which is, it's really empowering, recognizing like I can make these choices that shift things. And I saw this quote on the internet yesterday that was, be the person you want to see existing in the world.
Right.
And that was so powerful. And that's really what this energy is about. And I think it's important too, with the month of June, especially, we are going to feel a bit more heightened in our energetic sensitivity, especially if you have water in your chart, because anything moving, the sun moving into Cancer, Mercury moving into Cancer, anything that's moving through the Cancer area of your chart is also going to be interacting with the Pisces and Scorpio aspects. It's going to be opposing the Capricorn aspects, to be squaring, your cardinal energy. But the bottom line is the sensitivity is a gift, and it can be a source of strength because it's letting you know. One good thing about Cancer season is we get all these signs of, hey, pursue this, or this is not working. You get to make a new choice.
Yes, listen to your intuition.
Yeah. And then the fight in the community, the reason why I keep coming back to that is, and I think this has always been the case because humans, but right now, because we have this amazing technology, we can get overwhelmed. And obviously the people that are being loud right now in a lot of spaces are the people that are trying to control, are trying to create fear, are trying to, push an outcome onto others. And the reality is, the majority of people are not like that. And the majority of people, one, just want to live their life, and they actually want to support you to live yours. And it's just so important to step into that energy with courage, and to not just be focusing on what's wrong.
Right. I think if you just looked at, say, social media and started reading through the comments, you would think this is such a contentious, awful cesspool of a world. Right. And then you go to the grocery store and people are so nice. Yes. You go to the lake or the beach, or you go, somewhere in public and where you actually have to probably show your face and maintain a level of dignity. But you know what I mean? Like, I think in the chaos online, obviously there's a lot of unchecked emotions.
One shadow side of Gemini season.
Well, and so that's what I was going to say. Like, could you say that a lesson as we embrace Gemini season and then move into Cancer season, could that be to formulate your thoughts and your opinions, but then allow yourself to express them with compassion, and emotional maturity as we move into Cancer season?
Yes, because the other aspect of Cancer is it highlights one of the big things that Cancer highlights, and it's not to punish, it's to heal, but it highlights a lot of our core wounds. And the thing is we all come into this world, we all have a core wound. And this is something that we're invited to remember, that we're all here, we're all human, and 99% of us, we want to heal, even if we don't know where to begin. And I actually got into an exchange with someone this morning and I was correcting, they had stated a factual error, and I kindly was like, oh, it's actually like this. It was about beekeeping, nothing super crazy. I know. And it was so fascinating because I gently corrected. And then they kind of came back like, meh. And then I said, I picked out one thing that they were correct about. And I was like, oh, you're right about this. I just wanted to, let you know, because I know that you're on here wanting to be educated, and that's so awesome. Keep exploring and learning. And I could tell, like, because you could see them like typing. And then later on, like right before I got on here, they private messaged me, and they were like, thanks for not being mean to me.
We've reached a point, I think, and, maybe this is lessons to be learned through Aquarius and how to deal with technology, which is to like fucking modulate yourself. And
yes,
you know what? The technology is new for everyone. And I think we just didn't have a blueprint to follow before, but now it's like, be civilized.
Well, and I think too, the fact that people can get so volatile online, again, goes back, it speaks to the wounding that we have. And so there are people who they don't know how to express their pain like in a fucked up way. They're like, they at least recognize, okay, I can't say this to a person's face, but I can get online and I'm anonymous and they're not real, quote unquote. I mean, they are real, and that's why it's so dangerous to do this. But it's recognizing. So I think they get on, and then that's how they release steam. Yeah. And oftentimes too, again, anytime we're in a cardinal season, this is going back to addressing some aspect of our sovereignty or our power that we have given up and we're being asked to call back. And I said that very simply. It's not a simple process.
Well, and that's why having these practices and belief systems and having these kind of conversations and involving yourselves in communities where you had started off speaking about that are going to support you in finding sovereignty and in also the tools that help you regulate your nervous system and your emotional maturity and processing in that way. These are just essential tools for adulting, and being aware of how even astrology can help really lead us in this way if we give it a chance and stop like assigning absolute rule and lack of a lack of sovereignty. No, it controls me to it.
Right. And that unfortunately is one of kind of the shadow sides. And I want to preface this, every sign, every transit has kind of a higher vibe and a lower vibe. And what we're dealing with now, kind of the fallout or the realization of like where we've really given away our power as a collective and where we're kind of tasked with picking up the pieces, beginning that process in June. The giving our power, that's a shadow side of Saturn's last 2 years in Pisces. As you said, Pisces, it is very powerful. It's very spiritual. The shadow side of Pisces is it can want to escape and not want to deal with reality. And all the water signs do that, but Pisces can be really, because it's the final sign of the zodiac, it's going to go whole hog into that if it's going to go that route. And even though we have so many gifts from Saturn in Pisces, the shadow side of that is a lot of people either fell into the like, well, the world is screwed. I'm just going to wallow in whatever addiction I choose, or I'm just going to doom scroll, or I'm going to give my power away to a spiritual leader and have them tell me what to do. And so we're starting this new journey of taking back that power. And of course, once Saturn moves into Taurus in 2.5 years, we're going to have shadow aspects of Saturn and Aries to deal with.
What would you say is our biggest lesson to learn and our biggest opportunity with Saturn entering Aries?
I would say that divinity is within us, and we have always had more power than we realize.
Do you think this is why there's a fall of the guru right now?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Interesting, because Saturn is kind of like a controlling type of, and it's like the kind of strict daddy energy. And I can see how in Pisces that has to do with like gurus who are abusing power, whether consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah, in the name of
spirituality.
Spirituality. Yeah. That, you know, and I predict, like, for example, with the shadow side of Aries, what we may see is a rise in we do have this rise in the spiritual sovereignty and the taking sacred action. That's the higher vibe. The lower vibe, unfortunately, is we could see people who are committing acts of violence in the name of spirituality.
Yeah, you know? Which obviously is a long part of our history, so nothing new, but something to it's really helpful to see what's the exalted expression of this, and perhaps what is the wounded expression. So
right. And you know, I think that and this is the first, we're approaching, you know, the first cardinal season since we had Neptune and Aries move in, or Neptune and Saturn move into Aries. And so this is kind of give us this extra processing power and this extra realization of what we have learned, good or bad, what we've learned as in like, oh, this has been empowering, and then now I can take this into the next phase of energy. Or, oh, wow, okay, that wasn't so great. How can I do better?
I love this. So this June, you would say, is a time of really recognizing what needs to be left behind. What do we want to carry with us? How can we step into sovereignty and be the change we want to see in the world, and and lead in that way? Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, the final thing I'll say, relating specifically to the collective, is we're also probably going to see, especially around or after the new moon in Cancer, which is on June 25th, we're going to see a resurgence around bodily autonomy, the desire for it, and issues around it. You know, there was her name was in my brain and it just left. The woman who is being kept on life support.
Oh, yes.
So that her baby.
Unbelievable. In Georgia, right? Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so, and, you know, understandably, that raises so many issues that are not new. The beautiful thing, though, is with all of this planetary shift, my hope is that we start to move, instead of just yelling about it online, we actually start to move in real life toward making these changes, at the very least speaking about it, and letting the powers that be know, like, hey, we're not going to stop. You can't throw another 4th of July sale at us.
Yeah, you cannot distract me.
You can't throw another stimulus check, or, you know, walk back some tariffs. Like, this is not going away.
Right.
The evolution is not going away.
Correct. And I think throughout this process, Tara, I think we're just learning how to be more effective in creating change versus just potentially wrecking our nervous systems and not really having any true influence. And we have more influence than I think we recognize. I love the return to sovereignty. We don't recognize that just us living sovereignly and affecting the little world around us, how that is truly like a butterfly effect. So
it really is.
Do you have any words of wisdom for June? What do you want to leave us with, knowing what all of we've just talked about? Because it was a lot, but it's always a lot. And that's why who can get bored with astrology?
I know.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, but any, you know, as we wrap it up, any kind of overarching words of wisdom, shares thoughts that we can carry with us through June?
Yes. So I would say overarching, this is just one thing that I live by anyway, but it really is relevant. I'm going to start with the corny mantra, and then I will actually give the do no harm yet take no shit. Basically, just really it's so important for June to really focus on yourself in an empowered way. Meaning, looking at when you don't like what is going on, instead of focusing on what is wrong, either focus on what is right and help that grow, or focus on what makes you feel safe and grounded so that you can then begin to focus on what it is you want to cultivate. That's my advice. And then, find your people and play with your people. I've been saying that for the last few weeks. Yeah. Consensually play with your people. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much. What a month ahead. Yes. What do we think about? So for those who don't know, you were doing these reports weekly on Instagram, and we recognized that this is better in a long format. People will get more of it. And when people can access it as a podcast, they're in the right space to be receiving a longer message versus when they're just scrolling on a social platform. So I hope this is being well received by people, that they can actually take in because I know you're like, I have to censor so much because I want to talk, but I know people have attention spans of flies on Instagram, understandably, us included. So what do you think of this new format? Are we digging it, Tara? And are we digging it?
I'm loving it. I am loving it. I'm excited about this because there's always a lot that I want to talk about each week. And of course I always welcome feedback. If you're listening to this first one and you're like, oh, it'd be cool if you talked about this. Because I got so excited. I made this little outline for this one. And then, it's, and of course I had like 6 hours of material that I wanted to talk about.
Well, we're going to keep it in check. For those. So for our listeners, get ready. So just so you know the update, we're going to be having a monthly Astro report with Tara every month. It's going to be more long format. We're going to be talking how it applies to us personally and the greater collective. And of course, send us any thoughts or feedback. We're here for it because this is our first time doing it. So Tara, thank you so much for agreeing to this. I love being able to be the first to hear the Astro report. And of course, join us over in the Minx and Muse multiverse. You teach 2 astrology classes a month over there. That does include more detailed cosmic weather, as well as shadow reflection and group where you can ask individual questions, and we'll have group discussion. So, yay! So, thank you so much for watching. You have to share what's your sign off always.
Love yourselves, love each other, and happy stargazing.
Happy stargazing. Thank you, Tara. Mwah. Mwah. Thank you for joining me for the Minx and Muse podcast. You can find show notes and learn more about the studio at www.minxandmuse.com. As a reminder, it is our birthright to transform, expand, and safely exist as sensual, conscious, and empowered creatures. I'll see you next time.